My kids are growing up so fast, and I'm just gushing over the family photo we took for Mother's Day last year. Why? Because the photo sits right on my work desk in a sleek black picture frame from FrameBridge. It perfectly accents the blue and white outfits we're wearing in the photo. FrameBridge makes it easy and affordable to custom frame just about anything. And looking at the other many photos in my phone, I can't wait to frame more memories. FrameBridge has a curated selection of frame styles and design experts to make it fun and easy to choose the perfect frame for your piece. Shipping is fast and free on orders over $100. Visit FrameBridge or your local FrameBridge store at 113 South 18th Street or order online at framebridge.com. It's summer, so our Philly public schools are not in session, but the challenges facing the schools are top of mind for educational leaders in the city. Carly Citrin, Bureau Chief of Chalkbeat Philadelphia, is joining me here today at the Fiddler Club to discuss the issues we need to start paying attention to when it comes to education in the city. It's Monday, July 21st. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Carly, it's summer break, schools are out, but that doesn't stop your work and reporting on what's the latest happening within the school district of Philadelphia. School closures are likely coming. How close are we to seeing that happen, and why is that happening?
That's a really good question, Trinae. Thank you so much. And yeah, school is out, but the work never stops. We don't actually have a deadline for when we may see closures come. The district has said, started preparing people for the past couple months that we're thinking they might propose a plan this coming fall of 2025. Any potential closures probably wouldn't be voted on until the December or winter season, but those are kind of loose deadlines. And we've heard from folks who are involved in the process that they're requesting a slowdown, that there are people who've been advising the district who say, hold on, we need more information. We need to prepare people a little bit better. So there is the potential that it could be further down the road. So all of that to say, it's not happening this summer. It's not happening immediately. There's no need to freak out about that, but people should be prepared.
Okay, let's go over maybe some basics of where we are within the district. How many students does the district serve currently?
Yeah, so this is an interesting kind of question. The district is facing a lot of things. Basically, they've got seats in district buildings for about 180,000 students, but they're currently only serving about 116,000 or so. So they've got, some 218 schools. It's a big urban district, right? But enrollments have been, on the whole, declining. There was a slight increase last year. The birth rate is kind of, leveling out or slowing down as well. So there isn't a huge influx of new school-aged kids. And the district is sort of taking this opportunity to say, okay, we've got old buildings that have asbestos and lead and
no AC, right?
Heat is a big problem. And so it does seem like this is a moment for the district, too, to kind of look at their building stock and say, okay, these are the numbers of students we have, of young people in the city. These are the number of buildings. These are the empty buildings, the big empty buildings with asbestos in them. Maybe we can re-coordinate things to make sure from the district's and board's perspective that students have the best learning environments that they can, that schools are safe, that they're clean, that people feel happy and safe and welcomed. And so while the closure process, I'm going to be straightforward, it's not going to be easy. No, it's not. People are not going to be thrilled to see it. The district and board have been saying, the hoped outcome is that things are better overall and that they're calling it a right-sizing process.
So, Carly, a big part of this issue is the lack of funding. Is there any way that the school district can get some money before resorting to closing schools, or is this kind of like a done deal situation?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the district is sort of facing what they would say and what a court would say are decades of underfunding, significant underfunding, to where the district has not been receiving the amount of money it needs to educate all of the students thoroughly and efficiently in the city. And so, from the district's perspective, unless they're going to get a windfall of $5 billion all at once immediately, there's a lot of ground to make up. And so Governor Josh Shapiro has proposed and has passed in previous years, more money for schools. And so the district is sort of on its way to what's known as adequacy, or what's known as fulfilling, its budgetary needs. But it's a lot of money. It's a big number. And so no 1-year amount is going to completely plug that hole and prevent, everything that the district is working with.
Another aspect of this has been the process of school closures, and I guess maybe the transparency of it all. What's been going on?
Yeah. What's so interesting is Philly's been here before, right? We've been here in 2013. The district closed some 23 schools. It was a really emotionally difficult time for everybody. School board meetings at the time, it was the School Reform Commission, were full of people, angry, coming into meetings scared. They didn't want their neighborhood school to close. And so the district is very aware of that traumatic memory. And so they have promised this time it's going to be different. This time we're doing things differently. The community is going to be involved. This is not our plan. This is not the district's plan. This is Philly's plan. But in practice, it is incredibly hard to have a community feel involved in a school closure process. And I think the complaints that folks have had about this process is you can hold all the meetings you want and show all the PowerPoints you want, but the district has been so tightly controlling the amount of information that gets out and so fearful of scaring people or of giving information before they feel it's ready that nobody really knows what's going on. There's no criteria for what they're looking at in terms of which schools will be closed. They've been promising data for months and months and months, and nobody has seen data. There have been people in these advisory group meetings where they go and the district says, here's a little bit of data, but it doesn't leave this room. And I think what that has done has created a difficulty and a distrust where people feel the district is not being completely open and transparent and honest, even though they are asserting that they have been. I've been to a couple community meetings back, I went to as many as I could in like the November fall time. There were 1 or 2 parents in the room listening to a really dry, bureaucratic presentation about the district's building stock. And it just didn't feel like a process where people were being welcomed in and their ideas were being heard.
But aren't there like parents that are a part of like the school board, or like there are parents and members of the community that, get to go to these meetings, or there are parents that are a part of these like advisory councils and stuff like that?
You're absolutely right.
So what is the disconnect here?
Yeah, I think it's tough. Yeah, the district has opened these advisory groups where parents and community members and academics and people can apply to be on these boards and go to these meetings, and with the ultimate goal of like, we want to hear from people. We want to, hear what the community has to say. But when we've talked to those parents and we've attended some of those meetings, it is a presentation. It is the district saying, here's the situation that we're in. And some of the parents and community members who we spoke with said they felt that the district was coming to them with a foregone conclusion.
Or like talking at them and not with them, maybe?
And that they were essentially being asked to rubber stamp a process that they didn't necessarily feel that they had their hands around. And I think that's part of the district wanting to kind of so tightly control the information that gets out. It doesn't really allow for a meaningful engagement process. But to be fair to everyone, how do you community engage on school closures, on things that are traumatic and difficult? You're never going to get people come into a meeting saying, yeah, close my school, And so it is in a way an impossible task. And so the district has been clear that they recognize that to an extent and want to do better and care about this process. Whether or not that's being felt by Philadelphians, I don't know.
More on this topic after the break. Did you know that jazz legend John Coltrane moved to the Strawberry Mansion section of North Philly as a child? Or that the iconic Divine Lorraine Hotel earned its name when Father Divine transformed it into the first racially integrated hotel in the city? This July, discover the powerful stories that shaped a neighborhood at the North Philadelphia History Festival, happening July 24th through the 27th. It's 4 days of free events, exhibits, live music, film screenings, performances, and community conversations, all celebrating the rich African-American and Puerto Rican cultural legacy of North Philadelphia. The North Philadelphia History Festival is organized by Scribe Video Center, with lead support provided by the William Penn Foundation. Join Scribe this July 24th through 27th at various sites throughout North Philadelphia. Learn more at scribe.org/NPHF. That's scribe.org/NPHF.
This episode of CityCast is sponsored by Babbel. Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique that quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel, just one of the 12 languages you can learn with it, including Dutch, French, Italian, which is going to be next for me, Turkish, and Russian. I love the interactive dialogues that Babbel has, which allow me to practice what I've learned right away, and also the speech recognition function, which makes sure I'm getting the pronunciation just right, which honestly, usually I'm not. Also, I love that Babbel's lessons always cover actual things that I talk about in the real world, like food, talking to people I've just met, and also food. Staying motivated to learn a new language has never been easier thanks to real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations, in only 10 to 15 minutes a day on Babbel's mobile app or website. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Let's talk about the teachers, right? The Philadelphia Teachers Union voted to authorize a future strike if the union and the district didn't reach an agreement by August, because that's when their contract expires. Any insight on how negotiations are going?
Yeah, what's so interesting about this time is the PFT, the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers Union, for many years was prohibited from striking. The last time they struck, I believe, was in the year 2000. And so what they're sort of facing now is this question of, they have a membership that's sort of like, well, are we strike ready? Do we know how to strike? Do we know how to pull the levers that we need to pull if we feel that we need to pull them? But at the same time, you know, we saw the union leaders appearing with Watlington in Harrisburg to kind of lobby lawmakers for additional funding. And that was, you know, a really unusual show of unity for union members and the district to appear side by side and kind of advocate together. So it's an interesting position that they find themselves in, interesting politically and interesting in this kind of tension of power. So you know, we'll see how it all shakes out. It's likely that even if a strike were to happen, it wouldn't happen until the start of the school year. So they have voted to authorize, which is to give their union leadership the ability to call a strike. But it doesn't feel like a strike is necessarily imminent this summer. If they can't work out a contract that everybody agrees on, it would be more of a start of the school year thing that we'd have to watch for.
Okay, so we have these looming school closures, a potential strike, funding concerns, all of these big things happening within the district. And then there is this facilities plan. What is the facilities plan?
Look, that's a great question. I would love to know what the facilities plan is.
Oh, man.
No, essentially, it's the district's proposal for, you know, what we want our district to look like. You know, how many schools would fit the need of the students that we have? You know, how do we renovate buildings? How do we have new, fresh, buildings that are conducive to students learning. Things like they just built the new T.M. Pierce School or the new Lewis Cassidy School, which is gorgeous in the Overbrook neighborhood. And so this facilities planning process is the district's attempt to say, if we had all the money in the world, all the time in the world, all the resources, what would our district look like? And then how do we get there? And I think, closures are a part of that. They've also been very clear that co-locating, so putting some schools that are smaller, putting them in a building together is part of something that they're considering. Repurposing buildings. If buildings are huge and mostly empty and aren't being utilized, maybe that would be better served as a community rec center or something that could give back in that way. So there are a lot of options on the table. We don't have a good sense of what that plan looks like now, but it seems to me that it's something that's coming together this summer.
When they talk about a facilities plan, do they also, you talked about kind of like, it seemed like the physical infrastructure of what a school is and could be, but what about the services within a school?
Yeah. I think that's part of the question too. Like, we do have a teacher shortage in the city. There are positions that are harder to fill, special education teachers especially. And so I think what the district is also looking at, or at least what they've told us they're looking at, is, how do we spread things out? How do we make sure that the teachers are in the right places, serving the right numbers of students where they need to be? How can we start thinking about things like extracurriculars and how to have, room for that and the people who can produce those services, after school and before care programs? Like, how do we start kind of shuffling folks around or reconfiguring the district in a way that serves people where they are? And I think that is that's the ambition. That's the goal. That's the pie in the sky hope and dream, is that we can work everything out so that everyone gets what they need. And yeah, it's not just about the physical structure of the school, though that is a lot of what people think about, but it's also, how can we make sure that teachers are serving students where they are and that students are able to get to schools that are near them if that's what they're interested in? So these are all questions that are on the table, but nothing we necessarily have a clear direction from the district of yet.
How are things with the extended day pilot, right? There was 25 schools that were going to, have longer services available to students and families. How's that going? Because I know that the city is going to expand that to 40 schools.
Yeah, I think the communication around this has also been really confusing to a lot of folks. Mayor Parker kind of campaigned on this idea of year-round school. And while the name of it has now changed to extended day, extended year, which might be a little bit more specific, when I talk to folks on the street or on SEPTA or on the bus, they all ask me, do I have to apply for this? What is this? What does this look like? Does my school have it? How do I know? And so when we've gone into schools and kind of tried to take a look, it's mostly expanding services that already exist and that parents and communities really value. So at some schools, it means opening more before care seats than they had before. Some it's, working with community groups to bring in after school programs or STEM programs or things like that. But as of right now, I think it still is technically in its pilot year while they are looking to expand. It seems like they chose a couple schools that have programs in place already and said, we're going to monitor these programs. We're going to open more seats. We're going to monitor them. If people love them, maybe we'll bring them in other places. But it's not something you have to apply for. It's, sometimes the buildings are open during winter break, whereas they might not have been before. But it is not the imagined year-round school kids are in seats learning. Right. That's not what it is. And I think there's a lot of confusion over what it is. And I think it's basically, if you've got a really great program in your school and they open more seats, that counts.
Carly, I know we, often talk about some of the troubling aspects within the district, but what's been successful this past school year? What good things have been happening within the district?
Yeah, I think Superintendent Watlington has been really clear in his messaging that he believes the district is, quote, turning the corner. So he's the first one to kind of get out there and say our attendance numbers are up. More students are coming to school and staying in school
that's
for the full day, which is a positive. Mm-hmm. That's you want people to be in classrooms. The 4-year graduation rate is slightly up as well, which, you want folks to graduate. You hope that they'd be prepared to make that jump.
Graduate on time.
And graduate on time in that 4-year time. Although, everybody takes a different path. But that graduation rate is up. The number of students students who have dropped out or disconnected from the school system is down slightly. That is another pride point for the district to say, we're getting kids in schools and they're staying in. And while we still do have, a lot of young people dropping out, that number is being reduced slightly. And I think that's something that the district wants to maintain. There are some signs of increasing test scores and things like 4th grade math and 3rd grade reading possibly. And so I think part of that is due to the district, adopting a new curriculum for math and for reading. So, I don't know how much of that is directly attributable, but the district will be the first ones to say, they're moving in the right direction. While it's nowhere near as fast as people would like, where there are still too many young people in this city who cannot read on grade level, the ship is moving in a direction that would appear to be positive. And so I think everyone is sort of holding their breath to see, can we maintain this? Can this upward trajectory hold on? And if so, what can we achieve, in the years to come?
Carly Citron, Bureau Chief at Chalkbeat Philadelphia. Thank you so much for breaking this all down with me here at the Filler Club.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
You can find more of Carly's reporting in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Listen, let us know what you think about the educational issues that are facing the city. You can send us a text or leave a voicemail at 215-259-8170. We'll try to get your comments and your voicemails in episodes later this week. And also in the meantime, you can rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.